Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. We're going to get started again. And for the next session, you just have me as your MC. My wonderful co-host first was just here for the translation this morning. Now, yesterday I had the privilege of being at the youth conference. And the youth conference, we played a game. And so I thought we would start the next session with this game. So can I just ask you to all jump up onto your feet? So please stand up. Thank you. So because it's a conference, we do a lot of standing up and sitting down. And actually conferences often are very much sitting down time. So can I encourage you, whenever you are applauding today, feel free to stand up and applause, okay? So that's our trick number one. So if you have a seat, please sit down. Okay, and so pretend I'm the speaker and I've just finished my talk. So when you applaud, instead of just sitting on your chair and applauding, I want you to stand up and do it at the same time. So ready? And thank you for my speech. Thank you. Excellent, excellent. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Woo! That's more like it. This is great. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, please be seated. That's good. Okay, we'll just try that one more time. So thank you very much. Thank you for my speech. Hey! This is good. This is much better. I like it. Good. Okay, please sit down. That's good. This is the sort of energy that we will have in a volunteering conference. So thank you so much. My trick number 2 for you this afternoon, particularly in the breakout sessions today, is something from poetry. Now, from poetry, from the world of poetry, often, if you agree with what's being said, you can click your fingers. So try and snap your fingers like this. Okay, so throughout the whole conference, if you hear something being said, if somebody says something that you agree with, like this, okay? So on this count of 3, so we'll just do a couple of practice runs. So Thailand is a great country. Woo! Because that way we're supporting the speaker but not disturbing them, okay? So let's just one more practice. We will do volunteering is great fun. Great. Okay, so you get the point. Now my final activity, this is just a warm-up before I welcome the wonderful Hat to come and host the next panel. We're going to play this game that we played at the youth conference. Okay, so when I say, these are just 3 made-up words, but when I say the word atumba, you guys have got it. When I say atumba, you clap once. So atumba. Great, and our challenge is to do this all at the exact same time. So atumba, atumba. Excellent. When I say babanta, good. The young people from the conference yesterday remember. Babanta, babanta. Great. Atumba, atumba, babanta, babanta, atumba. Great. You guys are very smart. The last one is kanatra, and it's this. You have to listen carefully. Okay, so ready? Great, atumba, atumba, babanta, atumba, kanatra. Round of applause, that's excellent. It's now my very great pleasure to invite the wonderful HATTAYA from VSO. Sorry, I didn't bring my piece of paper. Hat and I first met in Thailand a few years ago. She's a wonderful volunteer leader who has done a huge amount for volunteering in Thailand, and we're very privileged to have you leading the next session. So, to welcome Hat to the stage, please pretend I finished the speech and do a big stand-up clap. Ready? Go. Welcome, Hat.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sam, for leading a very wonderful session. Now I feel very, very energized and really, really cheered up. Thank you, Sam, for that. I think we have a wonderful morning. We start with a very powerful speech from Ms. Kelly Bates, very warm, very heartfelt message from our Minister of the Ministry of Social Development, Kunjuta Grailer. And then a very incredible, inspiring speech from you, Mr. Daiji. It's starting with something very personal, but then it grew into something very, very powerful. 10 years later, now you have it, Mr. Daiji, a model that's starting to change the society. So I am, as your moderator of the session, in the next 90 minutes, I would like us to zoom out a little bit into a personal story and to something at the sectoral level, because we all here as volunteering sector. But within volunteering sector, we do have different people in it. We do have different actors. So we have policy implementation. We have volunteer involving organization. And we also have a corporate sector. So I've read the report. In 2018, State of World Volunteerism report by the UNV, it estimated that the combined effort of volunteers in this region would be equivalent of, can you guess how many volunteers we are looking at as an estimation in this region? I've seen some guessing around 100. So in the report, it says 28.7 million, equivalent of a full-time volunteer. You can clap, you can... But that's not all. That's not what captured in the report. But we know, I know, and you know too. It's actually a lot more of volunteering effort around our everyday life, of people that we meet every day trying to change the society. And with that amount of volunteering effort, we are the one. We are the one who can change the world. So we're going to spend the next 90 minutes looking at the power of volunteering and, more importantly, the key to unlock more power to change the world. We will start with a presentation from our three panelists and finish with a discussion. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our first panelist, Ms. SAYAKA SONOBE, the Manager Project Operation Department of the Nippon Foundation, Volunteer Support Center. She manages Volunteer Support Center, also popularly known as, I will try to pronounce this, Vola Sapo, right? The center carry out the operation of volunteer activities such as Tokyo 2020 Olympics and Paralympic Games. With more than 20 years of volunteering experience with Special Olympics herself, Ms. SAYAKA has been training volunteer coaches as a national trainer since 2009 and served as a member of Special Olympics Asia Pacific Football Advisory Committee and Regional Unified Sport Advisory Committee. Please join me to welcome Ms. SAYAKA. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Is it on? Yeah, okay. おはようございます、皆さん。Good morning, everyone. I'm Sayaka Sonobe. Firstly, I would like to thank you for inviting me to the conference I feel very honored to be here and excited to learn new ideas from all of you. But I'm very nervous. So could you put the smiles on your faces while listening? Is it okay? Yeah, okay. Well, I have a friend who has visual impairment. She's blind. The other day, when she visited me from Kobe to Tokyo, we had a little chat over coffee. In fact, she works for JICA, Japan International Cooperation Agency, and used to live in a small village in Thailand. So I asked her, how did you like living in Thailand? So she smiled and said, I miss there so much. A funny thing is, everyone in the village seemed to know where she lived. So they took turns walking with her to the office every morning and walking home with her every evening. I had no trouble living in Thailand. This is the kind of society that the Nippon Foundation is aiming to create. I want to make it clear that their action, walking with her to work or home, is volunteering is in a broad sense. Volunteers have different motivation to do it. Roles are also varied. In Japan, the meaning of volunteering is often associated with only giving or even sacrificing ourselves for others. But we believe it could be a small action in our daily lives and nothing special. It could be enjoyable, it could be enrich our lives. By taking advantage of holding the Tokyo 2020 Olympics and Paralympics, we are attempting to broaden the definition of volunteering. Oh, okay. Let me introduce myself. I'm a manager of the Nippon Foundation Volunteer Support Center, which was established based on the agreement concluded between the Tokyo Organizing Committee of the Olympic and Paralympic and the Nippon Foundation. We are cooperating with the Tokyo Organizing Committee in running the volunteer operations. I take care of developing volunteer training programs and train trainers and also communicate with local governments. So, what do you think of this outfit for? Yeah, this is for the kid of volunteers at the Rugby World Cup. The game was supported by 13,000 volunteers, and I was one of them. The recent Rugby World Cup, which was the first one in Asia, was held from 20th September to 2nd November at 12 venues across the whole of Japan. It is the third largest sports event in the world after the Summer Olympics and the Football World Cup. It recorded an economic impact of 437 billion yen. The volunteer program is called Team Northside. There were initially 38,000 people applied, and 13,000 people were selected. The term Northside was used by referee to essentially signify the end of a rugby match, and Northside became a symbol of respect, hospitality, and solidarity. No matter how fiercely the battle had been fought on the field, both teams showed gratitude to one another, promising to become lifelong friends. Once the match was over, we, as the volunteers, were proud of the concept and welcomed the world with Japan's famous hospitality. I worked at the Tokyo Stadium. My team was assigned to guide the spectators and support them to queue up for food vendors and toilets. The queues sometimes get to about 100 meters in length. I worked 8 hours a day while standing. It wasn't an easy job, especially when drunk spectators complained about the long queues for toilets. But I enjoyed talking to people coming from all over the world. And I was happy I could support others by using my skills. Many of the spectators told us, "The World Cup was fantastic! Thank you, Japan!" Yeah, when Team Japan lost, there were some people who were sobbing. I found myself close to tears. I felt the whole stadium became one. The world media spoke highly about volunteers. The games was over. Many of my volunteer mates said, "I miss it. I feel at a loss without it." It was fun to communicate with diverse people and understand each other. It was fun to be a part of one of the most exciting sports events in the world. The thing I liked the most was to meet new friends. This is my team. My team was wide-ranging from teenagers to people in their 60s. It was an unusual experience for me to work with such diverse teammates who have different ideas. The pictures was taken on the last day of our activity. The dog in the front row is a guide dog of my teammates. He was also a part of my team. In Japan, starting with the Rugby World Cup in 2019, we have 2 more international sports events coming up, which is the Olympic and Paralympics next year, and the World Masters Games the following year. I'm going to talk a little bit about the state of volunteering in Japan. According to the CAF World Giving Index 2017, Japan is the 73rd out of 139 countries in the world in terms of the proportion of people who volunteer. For your information, Thailand is 70, and Singapore is 41, so 73. Let's see the state of volunteering in Tokyo, where the Olympic and Paralympic Games will be held in 2020. The number of people who have experience of volunteering is 51.3%, and 27.5% of people in Tokyo volunteered for the past year. Looking at the shifting proportion, is it gone? Okay. Is it okay? Looking at the shifting proportion in the last 3 years from 2016 to 2018, the proportion of people who volunteer is increasing. On the other hand, the percentage of people who have never volunteered is decreasing by 10%. But it surprises me to know that there is still half of the population have never volunteered before. Now, did you know that huge typhoons have hit twice recently in Japan? Typhoon Hagibis was one of the most powerful storms to hit Japan in decades and caused a lot of damage in eastern Japan. 3 matches of the Rugby World Cup were cancelled due to safety concerns. It became big news that Canadian team members helped the city clean up from typhoon damage. In January 1995, the Great Hanshin earthquake occurred in Japan. After the earthquake, there were 20,000 volunteers working to help the disaster restoration work for each day, every day. And the total of volunteers was 1,377,000 for the year. That year is called the beginning year of volunteerism. After the earthquake, we had several major earthquakes, such as the 2011 Tohoku earthquake and the tsunami. Other than earthquakes, we have huge typhoons and heavy rainfalls every year. Accordingly, disaster volunteering has been brought to public attention by the media. The impression of volunteers working to help disaster restoration work is strong and become an image of volunteering. Now, let's move on to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics and Paralympics. We just call Tokyo 2020. In 8 months, the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics will be held in Tokyo. Tokyo will be the first city in the world which hosts a set of Olympics and Paralympics twice. In fact, we are very proud of it. I'm going to explain the outline of Tokyo 2020 volunteer programs. Starting with Games vision. Sport has the power to change the world and our future. There are 3 core concepts under the vision. Unity in diversity is one of them. We focused on letting people know and show diversity and inclusion. It will be applied to volunteer management as well, so that the culture of volunteering in Japan as a whole will be affected too. There are mainly 2 kinds of volunteers. Games volunteer on your left will be working at competition venues and athlete village, while city volunteers on your right, recruited separately by the Tokyo Metropolitan Government and other local governments in which competition venues are, will offer transport and sightseeing information to spectators and tourists. 80,000 for Games volunteers and 40,000 for city volunteers. In total, 120,000 people will volunteer at the Games. And we named that volunteers. The nicknames are intended to create a sense of unity among volunteers. The Tokyo 2020 Games volunteers are named Field Cast, and the city volunteers are called City Cast. We want each volunteer to play an important role in making the Games exciting. The name Cast holds our wish to volunteers to take part in the Games. And these are the kit for Field Cast and the City Cast. These are some numbers about Field Cast applicants. It's only Field Cast numbers. We need 80,000 volunteers and had more than 200,000 applicants. They range in age from teenagers to those in their 80s. 64% are female and 36% are male. A significant number of young people have applied, and a relatively large number of non-Japanese applicants highlight the strong level of global interest in the Tokyo 2020 Games. Fieldcast volunteer journey. This shows the schedule of Fieldcast. Application reception started in September 2018. Applicants take part in the orientation, general training, role training, and venue training. The journey takes about 2 years. Here are some pictures from the orientation session. Basically, it was an information session regarding the schedule of the journey. We also interviewed all the applicants either in person or online, which came to more than 80,000 people in total. And the general training started last month. The training consists of a lecture and an online study course, which we as the Volunteer Support Center supported to develop. We focused on letting volunteers know that volunteering is a fun activity. The handbook, which is distributed to each volunteer at the training venue, has 180 pages, yet there are interview articles of experienced volunteers of the past Olympic and Paralympics and lots of pictures as well. The training session is three hour long. That's very long training. It's in a lecture style, but there are fun quizzes, games, and discussions, so we don't let participants get bored. Our initiatives for Tokyo 2020. Volunteering at the Olympics, Paralympics are different from disaster volunteering because we can make some preparation ahead of time. We are planning to leave a legacy behind the following two initiatives. The first one is promoting, First one is promoting volunteering among the working generation. These days, companies encourage employees to take part in various volunteer activities. For the Tokyo 2020, there will be many volunteers who work at the sponsor companies, and their abilities are sought after at the games. The working generation tend not to volunteer because they say they are too busy to do it. You wanna make a noise for that? Right? Okay. Yeah, if they experience volunteering at Tokyo 2020, learn it is an enjoyable and fulfilling activity, we believe they will choose to volunteer in their leisure time. If they start volunteering, we think it will have a huge impact on Japanese society. In addition, if the companies identify relationship between companies' productivity and employees volunteering, they will encourage employees to do volunteer more. It will become a positive cycle. The Nippon Foundation Volunteer Support Center is providing various volunteer-related trainings such as English conversation, sign languages, and leadership skills, and also volunteer opportunities for Tokyo 2020 applicants of the sponsor companies. About 1,500 people have already registered with our programs. The second thing is adding a new value to volunteering. Everyone in this room knows volunteering is fun and enjoyable, fulfilling activity. But many Japanese haven't realized it. When we, as volunteer support center member, assisted in developing the volunteer training materials, we valued fun. Also, the concept of the volunteer program and its nicknames, Field Cast, City Cast, encourage volunteers to have fun. We hope those 120,000 field casts and city casts feel the fulfillment and joy that comes from connecting with people and participate in volunteer activities in various fields in their daily lives, even after the end of the games. That's all for my presentation. We still have 8 months to go until the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. Something unforeseen may happen from now on. I hope all the volunteers enjoy themselves at the games and the volunteer culture flourishes in the near future. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Sayaka, and good luck with Olympic Tokyo 2020. Very impressive process and presentation. Our next panelist is from Hong Kong. Her name is FLORA Chung Wan Fan, the CEO of Agency for Volunteer Service. She has been actively engaged in promoting volunteer service for over 30 years. She's currently a member of the steering committee on promotion of volunteer service of the Social Welfare Department of Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Honorary Director of Guangzhou Volunteers Union and Director of Guangdong Volunteer Federation. Flora has been the Secretary General and Vice Chairman of the National Day Organizing Committee of the Welfare Sector for many, many years. She was awarded the Secretary of Home Affairs Commendation for Distinguished Service in 2007. Please join me to welcome Flora Chung.
Thank you, HATTAYA, for the nice introduction. Distinguished guests and friends, it's my great pleasure and honor to speak in this first plenary on the topic of unlocking the power of volunteering. Today, I will focus my presentation on two important pillars of volunteering power, the youth and the young olds. Do you know what's young olds? This is a very popular term used in Hong Kong. It refers to people aged between 50 to 70. They are still young. Yeah. And today I will discuss the challenges and the strategies to unlock these two groups of volunteering power and the keys to achieve success. Before I start, I will give you some idea about Hong Kong and the Agency for Volunteer Service, the organization I've working for decades. And then I will discuss the challenges and strategies of the two pillars of volunteering, the youth and the young olds. And finally, I will share with some the 3 keys to achieve success. Hong Kong is small, I think you all understand, but we have a population of 7.5 million, with 92% are Chinese. Our life expectancy is top in the world, but we are facing an aging population like many other countries. About the volunteering in Hong Kong, as it is quite true, Hong Kong has a deep-rooted giving culture. According to the World Giving Index, Hong Kong people are more willing to help others and making donations. You see, 60% help a stranger and 55% donate money to charities. But there's still potentials for formal volunteering. The Social Welfare Department of Hong Kong government started the volunteer movement in 1998. Over the last decade, you see, the number of registered volunteers record a high percentage of growth of 49%, nearly 50%, which is very impressive. We got 1.3 million volunteers. That is, 1 in 5 to 6 are volunteers. This figure coincides well with that of the World Giving Index. We observe that the recent trend that there has been more and more self-initiated individual volunteer activities, which is hard to measure, due to the popular use of social media, mobile apps. Yeah. Everybody can mobilize other people without going through agencies or organizations. Yeah, that's a challenge for us to measure volunteering. But anyway, in Hong Kong, civil society and NGOs are still always a strong force in mobilizing volunteers and community building. Turning to the role of AVS, we are an NGO with charity status, to promote volunteering to build a caring community. We play a pivotal role to motivate, mobilize, and facilitate quality volunteering. We established in 1970. We have a history of 50 years. Next year, we'll celebrate the 50th anniversary of the IAVE together. Yeah. Motivate, mobilize, and facilitate are the keywords to describe AVS mission in promoting volunteering as a pivotal organization or a leading organization in volunteering. Our core functions cover 4 areas, namely volunteer referral service and action, training and consultancy, promotion and volunteers recognition, and lastly, networking and partnership projects. In recent years, youth and the young olds are considered the very important 2 pillars of volunteering power. That's why I choose these 2 groups for my discussion today. First, about youth in Hong Kong. I think most of them, I don't know whether it's true in other countries, they are overwhelmed with schoolwork and examinations. They rely heavily on social media to communicate, and they spend online on average 4 to 5 hours each day. And young people today have growing social and political awareness more than ever. And among the total individual volunteer members of AVS, 40% are aged between 6 and 30. But you see, their hours of service accounted for only 10% of the total, which is relatively lower than others. So we need to see and think about how to better engage the youth to unlock the power of the youth volunteers. We have to apply multiple strategies, like promotion via the digital means, social media, and peer-to-peer connections, recognition and incentive schemes, and we need to cultivate their volunteerism from early childhood via education from kindergarten. I think as early as kindergarten. We encourage family volunteering for parents to bring their children to volunteer, to plant the seeds from their early age. We also need to provide new and exciting opportunities, which is fun and interesting. We have to encourage creativity, their innovation, and self-initiatives, instead of structural program imposed by organizations nowadays. We have a number of award and recognition schemes offered by the government and AVS. These are some examples. And AVS also launched different youth leadership volunteer programs, such as the 4C Youth Volunteer Leadership Programs. It targets the secondary school students. The 4C means care, caring, confidence, commitment, and courage. That's what our youth need today. We also organize summer youth programs for those teenagers to spend their summer in a meaningful way. And in collaboration with the Commission for Poverty, we launched the Life Buddies program. We encourage the professionals and executives from the corporations to provide mentorship to those youth from the grassroots families. And another program we launched from 2015 is the United Nations Volunteers Hong Kong University Volunteer Internship Program. This program targets the university undergraduates. We select volunteers from the universities to undertake a six-month assignments in overseas countries for development and to build their capacity. And we also organize youth delegations to IAVE conference each year. Today, we also have our youth delegates on the floor. We have a group of 7 today. It's a way to broaden their perspective and also to exchange with counterparts, to exchange and also other cultural experience. Yeah. Now, turning to the young olds, another pillar of volunteer power. As said, Hong Kong has an aging population. 18% is above 65. And it is expected to become 1 in 3 in 20 years' time. It's quite serious. And according to our study with the University of Hong Kong, 26% of the older people have volunteered compared to 50% of the younger ones. So the volunteer rate seems lower, but older volunteers, they contributed social service hours 3 times over the younger ones, on average 146 per year. And we found that the better educated ones perform higher service hours than those less educated. The older volunteers has a number of strengths. I think you would all agree. They are talented with multiple skills for sharing. They are passionate and empathetic to other situations. And they will become more devoted with volunteer opportunities, matching with their expectations and interests. And most, especially those retirees, have abundant time and enthusiasm. Yeah. So, for the strategies to unlock the older volunteers' power, it is recommended by the study that we can target those pre-retirees, those in the neighborhood, and the active ones who will bring in friends. We can organize interest groups or classes and turn it into volunteering group. And also child-friendly activities which they can join with their grandchildren. And promoting volunteering by young olds via media exposure, internet and social media is more effective. We have to place volunteers in positions that best match their skills and expectations. We have to build capacity of those service recipients, those elderly in the elderly centers, to become volunteers themselves. They can self-help themselves. And it's also important to design leadership and training programs for older volunteers to build the skills and become leadership, to lead other volunteers. AVS has a number of programs to engage older volunteers. We got a community-based elderly center serving the elderly. Yeah. My colleagues has come to this conference to make a presentation in workshops later. So you may find whether you can join the workshop and learn more about their activities on engaging the older volunteers. We adopt elder-to-elder service model to engage the young olds to serve the old olds. We also have a training institute called Hong Kong Institute of Volunteers to tailor training programs for older volunteers, not only for our volunteers, but also for volunteers from other NGOs and the Elderly Academy across the territory. We also set up special talent volunteer teams to capitalize the skills and expertise of the older volunteers. Example, the healthcare team, the volunteer performance team, and so on. So, overall speaking, to unlock the power of volunteering, we consider 3 keys to success, to achieve success. The key to achieve success. First, the key of collaboration. I think intergenerational collaboration can build bridges to promote an inclusive and caring community. Yeah. And it's very important that we build cross-sectoral partnerships among different stakeholders, NGOs, business, government, media, academia. Yeah. We can build synergy, leverage on each other's strength and expertise to maximize impact. And we also engage the professionals. AVS has established a platform called Hong Kong Council of Volunteering. We encourage professionals to contribute their skills and expertise to volunteering. For example, the doctors, accountants, engineers, planners, nurses, teachers, they can use their talents and their professional skills to help other people on volunteer basis, just like pro bono service. And the council comprises 17 professional institutions and chambers. We have to make use of that platform to engage professionals. Yeah. Second, the key of knowledge. AVS is lobbying resources for doing research on volunteering and its impact. Measuring the impact of volunteering will help us reflect the value of volunteering and to increase social recognition. And of course, very important to map strategies for further development. The third key is technology. I think you would, everyone can resist the power of IT today. We need to mobilize the power of personal network. Yeah. Peer-to-peer influence is important for volunteer initiatives. We will introduce a volunteer engagement platform and self-service portal for matching and to improve the user experience. We expect it will come on live next year, 2020. And we also need to develop the skills and capacity for NGOs and VIOs to use social media and other digital means to reach out to the public for promoting volunteering. To summarize, the strategy of AVS to promote volunteering, to unlock the power of volunteer, there's first, we need to drive cross-sectoral partnership and collaboration. We have to enhance intergenerational communication and harmony. To strengthen the youth engagement, to adopt elder-to-elder service delivery model, expand the frontier of volunteering program. We are thinking we will launching next year to celebrate our 50th anniversary, some initiatives to respond to the climate change, for example. And lastly, but not least, to promote good practice of volunteering and volunteer recognition. Yeah. So the pathway to sustainable volunteerism is to start from episodic volunteering, that means one-time volunteering, to regular volunteering. And ultimately, we want volunteering become a way of life of Hong Kong people. So our slogan is, I volunteer, I live. So now Hong Kong is in a difficult time. It is our hope that the power of volunteering as a building block of a caring society will ease the tension and restore social cohesion and trust in the Hong Kong community in the aftermath of the current crisis. Thank you.
Thank you, Flora. Thank you for a wonderful presentation and our heartfelt support for Hong Kong. And I think I really liked the presentation, the looking at the youth and the young olds, the very refreshing perspective of volunteering. And again, very sophisticated numbers, very sophisticated information that we find it very, very useful, and it proves that you're really focusing on the research and evidence base. That's wonderful. So our last panelist, a wonderful KINJAL JAIN, a deputy manager of community services at Tata Sustainability Group. KINJAL drives implementation of the Tata Group level volunteering program. Tata engage and provide support to the community services vertical in undertaking research of CSR strategy development for the group company who seek support. A development sector professional, KINJAL has over 9 years of experience and expertise in business development, strategy development, project management, volunteer management, and stakeholder engagement. KINJAL provides consulting services to many companies and education, non-profit, particularly in forming long-term strategies and implementation plans to execute them. Please join me to welcome a wonderful KINJAL.
Good morning. Thank you so much for inviting me today to be part of this panel. I'm really excited to be interacting with you and look forward to meeting all of you in the next 2.5 days that we have together. Today, I'm going to talk about the corporate sector volunteering. I'm going to focus more on the corporate angle. And to give you a brief introduction, my name is KINJAL JAIN. I come from India, and I manage the group level volunteering program, like she mentioned, Tata Engage. Okay, so just to give you a brief background, there are many corporates who are already investing in corporate volunteering programs, and one of them is, of course, Tata Group. Tata Group's conscience to manage and work with communities has been there from the genesis of the Tata Group formation. The founder said that the community is the very purpose of the existence of the business. This drove the understanding of volunteering and community impact in all the companies that are part of the Tata Group. About Tata Group, a brief background, we're a global conglomerate of over 100 Tata companies. We have products and services from salt to IT sector. You must have heard of Tata Consultancy Services, Jaguar Land Rover, Tata Motors, Indian Hotels. So these are all companies that are part of one brand called Tata Group. We have the biggest asset with us, which is about 700,000 employees in over 100 countries. We have a group revenue of over $100 billion, and we operate in about 150 countries is where our products and services are used. And 60% of the products and services are used in geographies other than India. So we understand that the communities go beyond the genesis of the founder, and we are increasingly responding to that. We are the global leaders in various sectors, and one of the biggest thing that we have is the Tata Trust. 66% of the profits earned by the companies goes to this organization called Tata Trust, wherein they're used for the development of various programs that affect different nationalities. As part of Tata Group community, like we said, as the founder said, is at the existence of why businesses exist. We have many products that have been developed to help the last mile. Of course, there are many luxury products as well, but there are many products that are more designed keeping the community at the forefront, like affordable water filters, affordable hotels, affordable watches. One of the biggest things also with the new Indian Companies Act coming in, more and more corporate social responsibility funds are coming to the market. We are a huge conglomerate. We spend about $140 million in different communities, and which impacts over 8 million lives. So we understand our responsibility lies with the communities. We also have a large disaster response program wherein we train employees to become project managers to lead disaster project management in various disaster-affected areas. We also train volunteers to go into these areas and deal with communities that have been affected by these disasters. One of the biggest piece, which I said is about 700,000 employees are valuable asset. We use them to help by volunteering and creating a positive impact in the community. We clock over 1.5 million hours, which leads to approximately 2 hours per employee spent in a year. Keeping this in mind, we at the Tata Group realize that there is a need for increasing efforts to unify the effort. We have Tata companies across 100 countries, like I said, but they all do scattered volunteering. And at the same time, the only impact that we're able to calculate is just volunteering hours and hours per capita, which is not a very meaningful indicator. Keeping that in mind, we thought of forming Tata Engage to bring together all the companies on one platform. This is the group level volunteering program. The idea was to also involve their family members and retirees, because we realize employees are part of a social unit. Along with them, they bring their own networks and peer groups. So we wanted to leverage their skill sets and expertise as well. We also wanted to promote intercompany collaboration, being part of a group like that, wherein we have 100 companies from various sectors, industries, various expertise level and functional area expertise. We thought that intercompany collaboration is a very important factor in our volunteering program. To be able to meet that, we have robust systems and processes in place to be able to create a strategy for the companies to how do we achieve outcomes through volunteering. We have KPIs, targets, and guidelines on what is volunteering, what is not, what kind of partnerships do you strike. And like my colleague also mentioned, the technology plays a huge part in being able to facilitate volunteering. So IT platforms for us is very important. We have a Tata Engage website and an app that helps any employee, family member, or retiree to register and apply for any projects of their choice. Since the launch, we have 3 volunteering program formats that are running very successfully. There is one called Tata Volunteering Week. It happens twice a year, 3rd March and 5th September. It's usually a starting point for any employee who is undertaking volunteering for the first time. They have to volunteer for a minimum of 4 days, so basically means a full day during the year for any activity that does not require necessarily a specific skill set. It can be done in teams, it can be served as a good purpose to have informal conversations and an introduction to the communities around. The second one is ProEngage. I'll talk about it a little later as well, where I go a little into depth about the program. It's a part-time skill-based volunteering program for Tata employees and their family members, wherein they work on projects for a period of 1 to 6 months. And the third one I've spoken about earlier is disaster response, wherein whenever we are responding to a disaster in an affected area, we invite volunteers to come and help us in relief kit distribution, in conducting medical camps, in doing needs assessment before we start a full-fledged program in that community. And the first two programs, Tata Volunteering Week and ProEngage, Tata employees, their family members and retirees can participate, and the last one is only for Tata employees. One of the biggest things we realize being such a large conglomerate is that it's difficult to centrally drive volunteering. We had a reason to put a different model in place to be able to identify volunteer champions across the world who are going to help us drive this program and our vision forward. We have created a SPOC community of approximately 100 volunteer champions who drive volunteering in their location or office. We also have, like I said, the IT platform to be able to monitor the progress, so it is not that difficult for them. They just have to add an activity. Any employee has to just filter for the location that they want to participate in, get in touch with the coordinator, and report on log the volunteering hours. So it is a very simple, easy to use platform. We currently have about 100,000 registered users on the website, which we can call upon depending on what kind of project comes on board. The first model, so you'll realize that both the programs have a very different model why we have adopted, and I'll explain it to you why. Tata Volunteering Week has a very decentralized model, which means that at the group level, which is me, will be just managing the communication campaign and consolidating the performance. But the people on ground, the volunteer champions, are the ones who are responsible to drive volunteering in their location, encourage participation. The reason we did that is even if we are a global conglomerate, we have to respond to local challenges that the communities are facing. And to be able to do that, the local person has to curate activities that meet those challenges. So that's why we put this particular format in place. The central team, like I said, would be just driving the communication campaign so that it becomes easier to communicate. We manage the platforms. We recognize the efforts put in by each and every individual to be able to manage this, because this is not part of their day job. They're doing this beyond their work call, and we want to recognize that. ProEngage, like I said before, so for this we have followed the centralized model. The reason being, because the volunteer champions on field are not necessarily experts in the field, they will not be able to identify the non-profit capacity building challenges that they have. Even if they are able to identify it, to be able to curate and review a project is centralized by us, which means that every organization puts up a project on the website. We review each and every project and then ask for volunteers to apply for the projects. The role is reversed here. We encourage participation. We ask them to apply for projects. We are the ones who are then driving it and providing the project implementation support that it requires for skill-based volunteering. Now, I just wanted to go into a few examples for various companies that are doing various key initiatives that are localized to the challenges that they face in the communities. Jaguar Land Rover in China, They, in 2014, to respond to a disaster that struck, started the Warming Winter Action, wherein they, through their CSR effort, was supporting the school facilities in the Yunnan province. And what they realized is that their efforts were not necessarily matched by the employees. So they ran a very full-fledged communication campaign to get volunteers on board, wherein 500 plus volunteers came together to raise $100,000 for the school facilities, which doubled the efforts that they were putting in. They were able to then extend their facilities to increase the sweater donation for dealing with harsh conditions. And the fundamental facilities that they have been able to provide through volunteering, where they build the infrastructure facilities of the school, is going to sustain them for the next 20 years. So that's the power of volunteering we're talking about. The second company I want to talk about is Tata Consultancy Services, you might have heard of. It's an IT company, and it has approximately 450,000 employees. When they were employing people, they realized that increasingly the youth don't have the skill set that match the job requirements that are there, required in the industry. And for that, they started a program for STEM learning, while they provide a variety of volunteering opportunities, because they understand that every individual has their own interest and skill area, but 50% of their volunteering activities are limited to STEM volunteering, which is basically science, technology, engineering, math, which is going to prepare today's youth in becoming future ready. They have about 16,000 volunteers engaged throughout APAC in this program, and reached to over approximately 100,000 beneficiaries now. And this program is also inspiring a lot of rural youth to join the program. So it's not limited to only the cities, it is also encouraging others to join the program. One of our local example is Tata Steel Thailand. It is a steel company, subsidiary of the Tata Steel Group in India. As part of the royal initiatives, they undertook the reforestation program, and they have called upon volunteers to be able to plant trees. The best thing is that each and every employee volunteered, which is a 100% participation rate. They have about 14,000 hours, and after that they did a lot of follow-up activities around awareness of the species of trees that are there, the kind of initiatives that need to undertake to save and to be able to manage the trees' growth. Over 10,000 trees have been planted in the three regions, three provinces where Tata Steel Thailand is present. And Pro-Engage again. This is a program very close to our heart. It's a skill-based volunteering program wherein every employee, family member and retiree can participate. They give their personal time, which means you're working Monday to Friday, Saturday 4 to 6 hours. You have to work on a project for the next 1 or 6 months, delivering on a very specific project deliverable that meets the skill gap in the non-profit. This is the kind of work that we are encouraging our employees to do, to be able to make a long-term difference in the organization, who then serve the beneficiaries that they are reaching out to. We've had approximately 1,000 volunteers. You'll see that the program scale is very less because the quality of the program is much higher compared to the scale. And when we surveyed the nonprofits that are working with us, we realized that 90% feel that the efficiency and the effectiveness of their operations has increased because of an expert volunteer coming in. So this is one of our key success areas for volunteering. Going to the next and the last slide, I promise, is the current key challenges that we are facing with the volunteering program. We have one is that people like you who are already interested in volunteering, are already talking about volunteering, they're already engaged. But how do we engage people who have not heard about it, or have never experienced it? And we want them to experience at least 1 or 2 volunteering activity in a year, and that's one of our key challenge areas. Second is, yes, we understand that there are benefits to the company. When employees go to volunteer, they feel more loyal towards the company. The employees benefit a lot because they feel much happier, they feel more connected to the communities that they come from. The NGOs also benefit through the skill-based volunteering program, where they get the skill gaps that they have in their organization. But how do we reach the last mile increasingly? Because we are limited by the operational areas, we want to see what different models work that actually impact the communities better. We all have heard about communication. We communicate a lot, and social media is one big part of it. But I think for us, we feel that it's reaching its peak point as well, the amount of communication that you receive on a daily basis. So we want to cascade communication through different medias. We want to explore various mediums to be able to communicate and get more people on to volunteering. And because our employees are based out of different sectors, we have blue-collar workers who are constantly on the shop floors, and they do not have digital connection all the time on their office floors. We want to see how do we connect with them, which are not necessarily through digital mediums. While I spoke about ProEngage, the skill-based volunteering program, we also have to understand that they're giving their personal time over a period of time. In the beginning, you're enthusiastic, you want to make a difference, but every weekend to wake up and do the same work that you probably are doing at your workplace is difficult. And that leads to a lot of dropouts as well. And we are aware of the fact that skill-based volunteering is difficult for corporates. So we want to understand from different corporates and organizations on how they manage the dropout rate in skill-based volunteering specifically. And the last is, like Mr. Daichi said, about deputation-based volunteering, where we want our employees to go to a different country, understand the challenges that they face, and bring back learnings to their own company and their culture. So that's it from my side. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you very much, KINJAL. And yes, thank you very much for standing claps. So while we set up the stage, I think you have had time to deep dive into the model, the operation of the three organizations. And you may feel like, they're not quite the same. But we purposely put them together as a representation of the corporate sector, a representation of the policy implementer, and a representation of a volunteer-involving organization. So we're going to spend another 20 minutes. All right, the seats are ready. So we're going to spend another 20 minutes into the discussion, and hopefully we get the more insight from the three panelists. So I would like to welcome all the three panelists on stage one more time. So I'll start. I'll go ahead with the first session. But first of all, thank you very, very much for your very powerful, very insightful presentations. I think, having three of you sitting together, and each organization have had, involvement of so many volunteers. So I would like to ask you this: in your experience, in your organization, what is the most critical factor to really unlock the power of volunteering in contributing towards the sustainable development? So what is the key factor?
Okay, let me share. I think as I share in my presentation, I think a very important key is collaboration and partnership. I think a bilateral or multilateral partnership will bring strong impact to our programs or making impact. And for example, for the past 10 years, we have developed very close partnership with Disneyland, Hong Kong Disneyland. Yeah, we jointly launched the Give a Day, Get Disney Day. Yeah, and Give a Day, Get a Disney Day. Over the past 10 years, we celebrate the 10th anniversary this year. Over the past decade, we have generated over millions of service hours from volunteers. And this year, we also launched a family volunteer plus program, yeah, to encourage family volunteers. And we have engaged 10 NGOs and encourage their volunteers to bring families to volunteer. And the result is overwhelming. So I think it's a magic, yeah, to have more stakeholders join together for a shared goal and shared value.
Thank you very much, Flora. I think I could imagine a ripple effect from what you are explaining by engaging volunteer and now expanding to the family volunteer program. Yeah.
In fact, Disneyland has sent their staff joining this conference. They are very supportive to volunteering. Maybe they can share their experience with us, yeah, in FLORA.
Definitely, really love to have an opportunity to hear more about that. But I would like to also ask the same question to.
Okay, fun and enjoyment should be added to the value of volunteering. I think there is a big gap between people who volunteer and don't. So yeah, people seem to think that volunteering is very special action. They say, it's not my thing. I don't have time for it. Only high-minded people or noble persons do volunteer, right? So there was an interesting article about Rugby World Cup volunteers. There was this guy who volunteered at the games. Before the World Cup started, people around him said, "Why are you volunteering at the games?" in a negative way. Yeah, maybe he was blamed, because he had to take a day off to volunteer. Or simply, yeah, I don't understand for your interest in volunteering, right? So, but after the successful volunteering at the games, the same people said, "Oh, it's good for you. I should have applied for it." Yeah. So I think volunteering in sports field will expand the definition of Japanese word volunteering field and add new values.
Thank you. Enjoyment is very, very key to the volunteering as well. And what about you, KINJAL?
So for us, I feel that communication plays a huge part, and communication which leads to getting on the same page. I'm sure all of you have interacted with corporates. This is my first corporate job, so I'm also learning on the job, where they understand a certain language. And for us to appeal to the head, heart and face, that's what we heard yesterday, the head, heart and face section of employees, the messaging from the organizations that we want them to volunteer with or the causes that they should volunteer for also has to be communicated in the right manner. And that's something that is very critical to us. We are still identifying modes of doing that.
Definitely, KINJAL, the communication is also one of the very, very critical key. So moving on, I would like to move ahead with the second question. So actually, from my experience, we see that we do celebrate volunteering work. We talk about our success stories. But also I want to bring our attention to, among those successes, we are as a sector do face difficult challenges. And I would like to ask you to share those challenges that you face and also how you overcome it.
At the first? Yes, please. I think as an leadership organization on volunteering, we face a big challenge of how to secure financial resources to meet the growing demand for service. Yeah. Government funding is never adequate. It only, I think, represents about half of our budget. and we need to find ways to sustain ourselves. So we have to do a lot of things. For example, we need to do fundraising events. Yeah. But fundraising is hard because we are not provide direct service to the cancer patients. We are not serve the elderly or those poor. So it's not easy. So another thing is we have to think about doing some income generating service. Yeah. And we also, I think very important to engage talented people to help us to provide service. We have a very strong board with influential board members. They can build connections for us. Yeah. One of our board members, our vice chairman, also joined this conference. They are very supportive. And we also have a strong team of volunteer staff who work side by side with our paid staff to deliver our service. They are working non-pay, but with specific roles and duties. They are very, I think, important and vital to our service provision. Yeah. Of course, very important is how to position ourselves to focus and set priorities. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Flora. That's very, very clear message. And I think, I also, the conversation brought me back to the speech of Mr. Daiji when he's showing the fleas in the jars. And I think, with this specific challenge of facing, financial crisis, it actually forced us to jump out of a huge jump. Yes. So definitely very important message. Thank you, Flora. And
yeah, it's very similar to the first question. But speaking about Rugby World Cup again, before they started recruiting volunteers, it was concerned that there wouldn't be enough people applying. But they received 38,000 applications, which is way more than the number they needed. So many of them have no experience of volunteering. They wanted to volunteer at Rugby World Cup because they love rugby or just sports, or they wanted to be a part of big sports event. So I think it's a way to attract new people to volunteering.
it is about the way we attract new people into the volunteering as well. Very important. And KINJAL?
For us, it's more about expectation management. One is an employee who's already motivated to volunteer will go and do no matter what. They don't need anything to be put in place. But whereas most employees who we are requesting to volunteer or we are encouraging to volunteer will expect a lot. What do I get in return? What do I have to do? How does the organization manage? How will it affect my work? All of these questions have to be answered and have to be answered in a manner that actually satisfies the individual so that they can go and volunteer. And at the same time, on the other side, if we are partnering with an organization, for them also it's very important on understanding what kind of people are coming in, how do we manage them, because I don't know how it is in different countries, but in India, usually when you say you're coming from a big corporate, two things. One will be the organization saying, yes, I'm going to get money. And the second one would be about, they are from a big corporate, how do I give feedback? How do I let them know that this is something that you're working on is not going to help my organization? I need you to work on something that is more adapted to the organization that I am actually leading. And we have to work very closely with the organizations that we're working with and orient the volunteers before they go into the communities. So very aware of the fact, we have designed modules. They keep going through changes every other month because we are getting more and more feedback from both the sides and then incorporate that in the next edition that we launch.
Definitely. Thank you, Kinjal. Expectation and reality, right? It's a very important thing that we need to keep managing. Last question from me here. I think in creating the enabling environment for volunteering for development, what do you think is the most important issue that we as a sector together need to work together in achieving it? And how can we make it happen?
I think there's growing recognition of volunteering, but it's not enough, I think. I think we need to continue our efforts to raise recognition on volunteering. To do this, I think we as a sector, including at the local level and also international level, we have to measure the impact and reflect the value in terms of social, economic, and health, the value of volunteering, so that people would give more recognition to volunteering. I think in many other countries, when the volunteer is still growing, we need to especially, making efforts to do this. I hope IAVE can help us to to support us to I think to give maybe in terms of strategies or technique or tools, to measure or to the impact and value of volunteering.
Thank you. Sayaka?
I want to talk about the recognition too. Recognition, but I'm explained from another angle. People who volunteers don't talk much about what they do. I personally don't talk to my friends what I do as a volunteer. Maybe it's Japanese thing or Japanese modesty, but each volunteer should spread the attraction of volunteering more. Share the charm of volunteering through social media. Volunteering could be fun. Volunteering could be enjoyable. I'm hoping those values are added to Japanese volunteers.
Thank you. Kinjal?
For me, it's something similar, where I feel that the people who are volunteering do not speak enough, and they need to do more, necessarily even through social media to attract more people into the fold, but also in their own networks where they are operating in day-to-day basis. Not necessarily in detail about what exactly they have done, but telling them, showing other people a way that this is a different way to involve myself and use my skills for something that is needed out there. So this is something I also agree with.
Thank you very much from our three panelists. I think now it's actually over to you and over to us. How are we raising the recognition of the volunteering, both at the very practical level of creating the measuring impact processes, and also spreading the charm of volunteering, spreading the words of how fun it is to be a volunteer, how fulfilled it is to having to do something for other people. I think I will end this session for now, as it's closer to time for lunch. Thank you very, very, very much for your participation and engagement.
Thank you so much to a wonderful panel. Remember to stand up, stand up. Woo! Wonderful panel. Ladies and gentlemen, sadly we ran out of time for the questions, but the best thing about that is that we have a whole hour over lunch to ask questions of each other, ask questions of the panel, and be thoughtful about what we've heard. So right now it is lunchtime, and I know you're excited for that. It is slightly complicated to find the lunch, so I'm just going to give you the instructions. You must go up the elevator to level 4. I found out yesterday that the stairs, even though there's a big grand stairwell, it does not go to the lunchroom. Okay, so you must go up the elevator. And moving 400 people up an elevator, or 4 elevators, will take some time. So the elevators are out the back door on the right, The lunch is up there. There's 2 buffet stations. Enjoy a beautiful lunch together, and we will be right after lunch into the workshop sessions. And then afternoon tea and another session of workshops. Enjoy. Please refer to your program and the website and enjoy the lunch. Thank you.